To say that I love the Mario franchise would be an understatement. I've enjoyed this franchise since I was a kid, and I continue to enjoy the mainline games as well as most of the spin-offs to this day. I've always known Mario for being a series that can innovate, a series that can make bold and creative decisions to make each new game fresh, and most importantly, memorable. That's how the franchise has been throughout most of its history, except, of course, during the early to mid 2010s. This is where the Mario franchise mostly played it safe and didn't really take any risks. As a result, many games felt pretty stale, uninspired, and often lacked the charm of the games that released before. This is what I consider to be the dark age of Mario, a time where Nintendo seemed to care more about Mario having a squeaky clean brand image rather than the games being memorable. Obviously, there still were a lot of great games released during this era, but that doesn't make the mediocre and bad releases any better. For every Mario Kart 8 and Mario & Luigi Dream Team, we got a Mario Tennis Ultra Smash and Paper Mario Sticker Star. So in this video, I will be looking at this era and the disappointing subpar Mario games that released. The Wii and DS were very successful consoles for Nintendo, selling 101 million and 154 million respectively. Nintendo was a household name once again, and so was their famous plumber. During this generation, Nintendo finally brought back 2D Mario with the new Super Mario Bros. Series. The original released on the DS back in 2006 and was very successful and eventually led to its sequel on the Wii, which was a very important turning point for the Mario franchise. New Super Mario Bros. Wii released in 2009 and sold over 30 million copies, and alongside its DS counterpart, it was one of the best-selling mainline Mario games of all time. Nintendo likely saw this as an opportunity to take advantage of its success and basically created a standard for most of the Mario releases and spin-offs from this point on. It took a couple years, but by 2011 and 2012, most of the Mario releases used a style reminiscent of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, mostly utilizing only the characters and enemies from that game. While the style isn't necessarily bad, it was just heavily overused. Series like Mario Party, the Mario sports games, Paper Mario, and even eventually Mario & Luigi used this general generic New Super Mario Bros. Theme. It got old pretty quickly. It seemed like most Mario spin-offs were restricted to only using this theme and couldn't have their own unique or distinct theming. On top of that, some series completely changed gameplay styles and abandoned what made the older games good in the first place. So let's take a look at some of the games that suffered during this era. New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U are not bad games at all. I actually enjoyed these games, and they're generally solid Mario titles. That being said, they're definitely the most stale and uninspired games out of the mainline Mario games. Neither really changed anything from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, since most of the assets are directly based on that game, and it used the same world layout with grassland, desert, beach, snow, jungle, mountain, cloud, and lava themes. Really, the only things that changed between Wii and these two games are a few new enemies, and a couple new songs and level variations. Both of these games felt extremely unnecessary, and really only felt like they were trying to fill a gap for a new 2D Mario game on the Wii U and 3DS. These games really signify how Nintendo was trying to take advantage of the Mario brand during the early 2010s. Many of these games heavily pandered to NES-era nostalgia, and especially Super Mario Bros. 3, since Nintendo did not want you to forget about the Super Leaf. The most disappointing part about New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U is the fact that they actually had a lot of potential. They could have gone in a new direction and could have actually innovated the formula for 2D Mario, but no, they just decided to play it safe and release a very similar game to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. The Mario Party series was definitely one of the more notable spin-offs that suffered during this era of Mario. After the release of Mario Party 8 and DS, Hudson Soft was bought out by Konami, and eventually ceased to exist in 2012. That same year, another company was developing the next Mario Party game, ND Cube. ND Cube is a subsidiary of Nintendo, and they previously developed games like Wii Party and Wii Play Motion. With those previous games that they developed, it makes a lot of sense why they would be developing the next Mario Party game. Unfortunately, this didn't pan out very well, as Mario Party 9 had a completely different structure from the other games. On paper, changing the style isn't necessarily a bad thing. New ideas can often help franchises improve. In the case of Mario Party 9, though, this really wasn't the case, as the new style completely removed the things that made the previous Mario Party games fun. This gameplay consisted of everyone taking turns moving in a single car and collecting mini stars and reaching the end of the board. There are no stars, no coins, absolutely no strategy, and the only items are variations of the dice block. Despite the poor reviews and negativity from fans, Mario Party 10 had the same gameplay style as 9, but was even worse. It had less content with very few modes and only 5 boards in total. They also included a new mode called Bowser Mode, which was extremely broken, since the person playing as Bowser got a huge advantage. And on top of that, both of these games use the new Super Mario Bros. Wii theming, and don't really offer any new interesting themes like the previous Mario Party games did. The only positive thing I could say about both of these games is that the minigame selection was actually quite good, but that's hard to mess up. ND Cube with Mario Party in general heavily favored the minigames over the boards themselves, which was kind of a problem up until the return of the traditional style boards and gameplay of Mario Party Superstars. Overall, during the 2010s, the home console Mario Party games kind of missed the mark in terms of gameplay and presentation, at least in my opinion. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is a fun game. It's something that no one has ever said unironically before. This game needs no introduction, because it's absolutely terrible and is quite possibly the lowest any Mario spin-off can stoop to in terms of content. Nintendo hasn't gotten much better in that aspect, and this game may be the one to blame. There are barely anything here, like just a few modes with very small variations. Tennis with Mega Mushrooms, tennis with a giant ball, and just regular basic tennis. You can play everything this game has to offer in a shorter amount of time than the length of this video. The gameplay is also noticeably worse than past entries as well, since it uses the chance shot system for Mario Tennis Open, which basically removes most, if not all, skill from the game. It's kind of baffling that Nintendo even approved of this game. It feels like a tech demo, and there's barely anything to do. It really seemed like Nintendo got Camelot to develop this game in a few months, since they didn't have anything else to release for the holiday season. At that point, just give up and let Pokemon be the holiday title like they do nowadays. Oh right, there weren't any Pokemon games in 2015. Well, at least Game Freak still had standards then. A couple years later, Camelot, alongside Bandai Namco, developed another Mario sports game for the 3DS called Mario Sports Superstars. I would consider this to be the last game in the dark age of Mario, since Mario plus Rabbids and Mario Odyssey released only a few months later, and on the surface, this seems like a solid collection of fun Mario sports games with some interesting ones mixed in, like horse racing. I'm sure someone out there was dying for a Mario horse racing game. But in reality, this was just an uninspired, generic collection of the most basic forms of each sport. Very basic stadiums and generic environments, and it lacked the fun mechanics that made the past Mario sports games interesting. The roster was also pretty weird, since it seemed like they were running out of ideas when they were trying to pick the species to use for each team sport. We have things like the Boomerang Bros, Yellow Magic Koopas, and my personal favorite, the Yellow Flying Squirrel Toads. This kind of highlights one of the big problems with this era that still persists to this day. The rosters in Mario games aren't really that interesting. They mostly are restricted to the basic picks and often don't pull from the vast variety of characters that the franchise introduced over the years. So overall, Mario Sports Superstars is pretty disappointing in what is one of the last games in the dark age of Mario. Finally, the series that I feel suffered the most from the dark age of Mario, the Mario RPGs. I will never get over how disappointing it was to see Sticker Star go from a proper successor to the original Paper Mario games when it was first revealed in 2010, to the confusing mess that it became when it released. Paper Mario Sticker Star is a culmination of everything wrong with this era of Mario, since the effects of this game are still somewhat present in Origami King. First of all, there's basically no story here. One of the main things that people loved about the previous games. Bowser doesn't even talk this time, and Mario is stuck with one of the most annoying companions I've witnessed in a video game. There are no original characters here, and there's even a lack of general Mario characters, since it seems like most characters were pulled from New Super Mario Bros. Wii. On top of that, the gameplay is a huge downgrade from the previous games, since there's no EXP at all, and the attacks are disposable. There's no incentive to battle, and it even discourages you from battling, since it can be a waste of stickers. There's also the thing system in place, which requires you to use a specific item to beat bosses, and certain objects are required to progress to different areas, so the progression and overall gameplay loop are extremely frustrating and unintuitive. After Sticker Star, there was Color Splash, which was not much of an improvement. I know there's a decent amount of people that enjoyed the game, and I completely understand that, but I personally didn't enjoy my experience with it. Most aspects of this game were better than Sticker Star, but not much at all. The only real improvement is the dialogue, and to some degree the story, since the dialogue was great, and the story was kinda decent. However, the battle system is arguably even clunkier and unintuitive this time, since it requires you to use paint to activate cards, and it takes way too long to do a single attack. Overall, Sticker Star and Color Splash were extremely disappointing, and prove how homogenized the Mario brand can destroy the reputation of the series. The other Mario RPG series, Mario & Luigi, was actually doing quite well at the beginning of this era. Mario & Luigi Dream Team was great, and it stood out as a creative and unique game at a time where many spin-offs started to feel uninspired. Unfortunately, the generic Mario standards caught up with this series, and the next game suffered from it as a result. Mario & Luigi Paper Jam isn't necessarily a bad game, but it was pretty disappointing compared to previous games in the series. This was a crossover with the Paper Mario series, at least that's how it's branded. In reality, they literally just used the paper versions of the regular Mario characters, not really any actual characters from the Paper Mario series. On top of that, there weren't even any characters that were originally from the Mario & Luigi series outside of Starlo. This was a huge missed opportunity, and was pretty disappointing that they didn't do anything remotely close to the huge mashup that a lot of Mario RPG fans have wanted. They also used the same basic locations from New Super Mario Bros. Wii that were pretty overused by this point, which made the game feel pretty generic. But as I said, this game wasn't bad. The battle system was still pretty good, and the dialogue and character interactions were fun as well. But it just basically showed that at this point, the Mario RPGs had lost their touch, and unfortunately neither Paper Mario nor the Mario & Luigi series have returned to their former glory since then. Dark Age of Mario wasn't necessarily a bad time to be a Mario fan, but there were certainly a lot of disappointing titles released around this time, and it seemed like Nintendo kept using the same basic New Super Mario Bros. Wii theme for the games. Fortunately, this era has ended, and Nintendo has been more open about how Mario games can be. The Super Mario Maker series made 2D Mario more interesting, Super Mario Odyssey was a creative return to form for the franchise. Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle and later Sparks of Hope were also very creative and partially filled the gap of Mario RPGs. The recent Mario sports games have had some issues, but ditched the generic theming. Mario Party slowly returned to its roots, and Paper Mario the Origami King was a huge improvement over Sticker Star and Color Splash. While there are still some issues today with Mario releases, they're generally more creative and have a more consistent quality than the games released during the Wii U and 3DS era. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.